Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we are talking about books. We live in an age where we pretty much have everything at our fingertips, and if we have a question we can just ask this. And especially with lucid dreaming, there are a lot of resources online, from forums such as Dreamviews to YouTubers, Facebook groups and so on. But I feel it's good to be a little bit old school and dig deep into some of the fantastic books written on the subject. Whether you are a beginner or a more advanced lucid dreamer, there's always something new you can learn. So I'm going to jump in and give you a few of these books. So, number 1, Exploring the World of Lucid Dreaming by Dr. Stephen LaBerge and Howard Rheingold. Talk to any and I know about lucid dreaming books, and this will probably be at the top of their list. It is often regarded as the Bible for lucid dreamers. It is the first book that I bought on the subject and the one that really fueled the flame of passion for lucid dreaming. If you're unfamiliar with Stephen LaBerge, he is considered to be one of the pioneers in lucid dreaming research and was one of the people, alongside Keith Hearn, who helped prove that lucid dreaming was real and had valid scientific evidence to back it up. In his book, he speaks about the understanding we have of lucid dreaming, sleep and REM cycles, how our mind constructs dreams, and of course how to induce and maintain lucidity. There are loads of tips and techniques that are talked in depth, so as a how-to book it's definitely up there. And I guess because it was the first book that I ever had on lucid dreaming, I consider it to be my favourite, and it has a very special place in my heart. So we move on now to Lucid Dreaming, Gateway to the Inner Self by Robert Waggoner. This was the second book that I bought on lucid dreaming and one that I really enjoyed. Gateway to the Inner Self starts off quite autobiographical. With Robert talking about his earlier experiences with lucid dreaming and how he got into it, and then goes on to talk more in depth about the subject as a whole. It really isn't a how-to book, as there isn't a great deal on how to actually achieve lucidity, but simply talks about the uses and potential for lucid dreaming, the understanding we have of it, and trying to explore it on a much deeper level. Now, there are parts of the book that might be considered a little new agey, which might be really good or might be really bad, depending on where you stand. Such topics include out-of-body experiences, shared dreams, healing other people through dreams, and similar ideas. Regardless on where you stand on such things, it's still a really interesting read, which got me quite excited for lucid dreaming and exploration of my own mind. So the next book I'm talking about is the Tibetan Yogas of Dream and Sleep. Now, this book might not be the most suitable for casual dreamers or people who don't really have much of an interest in the spiritual applications of lucid dreaming. It centres heavily around the Tibetan religion of Bon, which is quite similar to Buddhism, but it's sort of like the precursor to Buddhism, you could say. So there's a lot of language and concepts that might seem quite foreign. So it might be hard to follow unless you have a genuine interest or knowledge of the subject. It talks about dreaming and the potential for using one's dreams to become more aware in everyday life, to liberate oneself and to prepare for death. And sticking to the more spiritual side of things, a book that is perhaps slightly easier to digest, Dreams of Awakening by Charlie Morley. Some of you may be familiar with Charlie Morley. He has quite a high standing in lucid dreaming circles and often hosts workshops the world over teaching lucid dreaming. In his first book, Dreams of Awakening, Charlie introduces us to lucid dreaming and ways in which we can benefit from lucid dreaming, such as working with nightmares, rehearsal for waking life events, mindfulness training, or simply having fun. There are also a few detailed induction methods which, again, for those people who are more or less just interested in the how-to side of it, will benefit from. Now, being a Buddhist, Charlie's approach to lucid dreaming is understandably from a more spiritual perspective. which may be off-putting to those who prefer to separate lucid dreaming from spirituality, but there's still a lot of valuable information inside, even if your views don't necessarily align with Charlie's. He also has 2 other books, Lucid Dreaming, A Beginner's Guide, and Dreaming Through Darkness. Now, I have spoken about Dreaming Through Darkness in more detail in another video, and there will be a link to that up there somewhere. Next, we have a field guide to lucid dreaming. Now, I believe this was a Kickstarter project originally, and was written by a few people whose names I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce because I'm scared of saying them wrong, but they will probably be here. So again, this book is pretty much just talking about lucid dreaming, a brief overview of what it is, how to achieve it, what it can be used for, and how to control it, things like that. In all honesty, this book doesn't really add anything new. The information in here can be found in other books and resources, so it doesn't exactly have a unique selling point. But it does have fantastic artwork, which is always a bonus in my book. Book, because I'm talking about books. And it's just a nice little addition to have in your collection. I suppose as well it's quite an easy book to read, and the information is presented in a way that's quite easy to take in, so I guess for people who maybe have a hard time taking lots of information at once, it might be a good choice of book. And the last book that I'm talking about today is Are You Dreaming by Daniel Love. Some of you may be familiar with Daniel Love, or as he is known on YouTube, The Lucid Guide. Now, similar to other books, this covers a lot of aspects of lucid dreaming, from its history, how to do it, and what it can be used for. But it's written in a way that personally I find to be really engaging and gripping. There is so much information, and what I especially love is that Daniel has mentioned the pros and cons of certain induction techniques, which is great if you're trying to find something that works best for you. As well as that, he also has a really cool rating system. Instead of what techniques are potentially easier than others, he splits it up into 3 categories: psychology, timing, and brain chemistry, and states how much each technique relies on those things. Which again I thought was a fantastic concept, because it really gives you a good idea beforehand of whether a certain technique will be ideal for you. It is a very detailed book, and for some people the amount of information might be quite a lot to take in and might be a little bit overwhelming, but overall I just think it's a fantastic book on all things lucid dreaming. Now, I could go on and on about each book, but I wanted to try and keep things as simple and to the point for you guys, but those were just a few examples of lucid dreaming books. I may talk about more books in the future, or if there's a book that you want me to talk about specifically, or a book that you want me to read if I haven't already read it, then please let me know. I will leave the titles of the books and any relevant links and information in the description box below. And with that being said, thank you very much for watching, guys. You can also support me on Patreon if you wish, and whatever, that will be in the description box too. So, I have been Max, aka the Rara Rabbit. I'll see you in the next video.